What if a robot could be a compassionate companion? A possible antidote to loneliness as we age and, in some cases, help those suffering from dementia. Hello, you're listening to where What If becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we're exploring what AI means to industries, government, society, and you. In the second installment of our two-parter on robots and artificial intelligence in healthcare, we're exploring companion robots and their potential for helping older adults feel less alone, assisting those with dementia, and improving their overall wellness and sense of purpose. Why is this important? According to U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, the country is experiencing an epidemic of loneliness and isolation, affecting Americans' physical and mental health. And while loneliness can be felt at any age, research shows that older adults are at increased risk. That's due to things like, yes, loss, but also chronic health conditions, including cognitive decline from diseases like Alzheimer's or decreasing mobility. A 2023 national survey found that about 37% of American adults aged 50 to 80 experienced loneliness, and about 34% of respondents said they felt socially isolated. Now, enter an AI-enabled care companion robot. And we aren't just talking about chatbots here, but robots that can crack a joke, remind you to take your medication, lead you in meditation, play bingo with you, maybe spark memories, and someday, perhaps, give you a hug. We're talking about robots that can make people feel heard and cared for. Carmel Majidi is a professor of mechanical engineering at Carnegie Mellon University. You might remember Carmel from part 1 of our series on robots and AI in healthcare. He's a leader in the emerging field of soft robotics, or softbotics, which is the development of soft, stretchable, and electronically smart materials to humanize the motion, look, and feel of robots and wearable applications. Carmel is seeing some exciting things happening in the companion robot arena, particularly in terms of assisting people who are elderly and might have limited mobility or independence.
Some of the earlier efforts primarily focused on human-robot interaction, where these companion robots would be able to engage in maybe simple conversations or dialogue with an elderly person, not necessarily engage in physical contact with the elderly, but at least provide some kind of social interaction and social support. More and more, we're seeing that with advancements in sensing architectures and new methods and actuation, especially within the domain of soft robotics, that a lot of these companion robots are advancing to the point where they can also engage in physical interaction with humans. And this is important because we know that a major component of social interaction is not just verbal communication, but it's also the ability for physical contact, afferent touch. And so there is that kind of tactile interchange.
Selma Shabanovich and David Crandall are on the forefront of this exploration into companion robots' capacity to improve older adults' lives and well-being. Shabanovich is a professor of informatics and cognitive science at Indiana University Bloomington. She also directs the university's R-House Lab, which designs, studies, and evaluates human-robot interactions. Crandall is a professor of computer sciences and director of the Luddy Artificial Intelligence Center, also at Indiana University, Bloomington. For the last several years, they have been researching and developing a robot that helps the elderly feel less alone and improves their sense of well-being, self-purpose, and meaning in life. Selma, what kind of robot can do this?
We decided to create a conversational social robot that could basically, through conversation, get to know a person, get to know the things that they care about, the things that are important to them, and then be able to through recommendations, through suggestions, through helping the person through the conversation reflect on their own situation, help them expand the kinds of activities that they might do to help support their sense of purpose, the kinds of people that they might get in contact with, whether it's their family, friends, or new people, and even self-improvement activities.
I understand you also discovered some interesting opportunities with this tech for people with dementia, including Alzheimer's disease.
I think one thing we realized also is that there are kind of opportunities with older adults with dementia with this kind of technology. Caregivers are excited about some opportunities for the technology, for example, to have kind of repeated conversations or answer kind of repetitive questions that the person might have. Or another thing that the older adults themselves have been excited about is getting reminders of stories they might have forgotten or events they might have forgotten, just things that might give them joy or give them a sense of meaning over time.
David, how do you develop the technical capabilities for a robot to get to know an older adult and engage with them in a way that makes them feel comfortable talking to a robot, especially when they may be experiencing memory loss or cognitive decline?
I've done some work with self-driving cars. And what's really impressed me about working on this project and thinking about social robots in general is like how hard the technical problems are. Because you might think that autonomous driving would be much more difficult than having a little robot that can have a natural conversation with an older adult. It seems like it should be more difficult because it's, operating this 2-ton vehicle all around the world going at 60 miles per hour and all this stuff. But it's much easier to collect data about the driving world. But it's really hard to figure out what are the physical laws that control what a person wants to talk about with a robot. And they do all kinds of things that you didn't expect. And making a social robot actually kind of robust and have a kind of authentic kind of interaction with a person, gosh, it's really hard. And then especially when they're maybe an older adult, maybe living with memory loss or dementia, then it gets even harder.
David, how are recent advancements in computer vision, which enables the robot to perhaps better recognize and respond to human behavior, and newer advancements in AI and large language models like ChatGPT, helping accelerate your work?
When this project was written, GPT did not exist. There was no one was talking about large language models. And so that really kind of changed the direction of the project. I think large language models, offer so much promise in terms of how to have natural conversations with people. On the other hand, we do struggle with all of the typical problems with large language models where they don't have a lot of context about the person's situation. They don't have a lot of context about what would be a good thing to say or a bad thing to say based on emotional feelings of the person. And then on the kind of computer vision side, I think there's all kinds of opportunities for helping that we've been trying to develop. Just figuring out, for example, is the person actually talking to the robot, or is that the TV going in the background, or is the person talking to a caregiver, giving a comment off to the side? How do you know that the person is done talking, especially if they're an older adult who maybe is pausing, maybe living with memory loss, who's maybe pausing a lot to think of words? Otherwise, the robot can just interrupt all the time, and that can, lead to a very negative interaction.
Soma, what have been some of the most surprising moments or findings from this research?
That's one of my favorite things about doing research on people and robots is that you're constantly being surprised. For example, the kind of depth and variety of things that people are willing to talk to a robot about has been astounding, from day-to-day stuff like going to the market to really in-depth experiences about finding their identity, their relationships with other people, loves gained and lost. One of the things that I think also I found surprising was that people sometimes said, what I really liked about the robot is that it really listened to me. I could really feel like I was being listened to and understood. Another thing was people mentioned several times that they could talk to the robot about things they wouldn't talk to other people about because it wouldn't judge them.
You would think, again, coming as the background of an engineer, that you would want a perfect robot, something that works 100% all the time, that understands exactly what people are saying, that has the right response ready to go. But what we actually found is that when the robot made a mistake or said something a little bit strange or misunderstood, that was actually an opportunity for building community among the humans in the room.
Your robot is humanoid-ish, but also cartoonish. Its face is a screen, and it looks like it's wearing a spacesuit. How human-like do you think a robot should be?
It is kind of cartoon-like rather than very realistically human-like. And I think that was an important choice for people. And they appreciated the appearance, but nobody was ever confused that it wasn't a robot or that it wasn't a machine. Or part of the point here is it's not to like replace the person or provide that kind of support. It's to be a different kind of tool and to figure out how we can actually use the affordances of these new types of technology that can communicate with people in ways that they're familiar with. And sometimes, ours also says like, I'm a robot, and so I can't answer this question for you, or I don't know this.
What do you see in the future for companion robots?
What I'm hoping for is that we'll have social robots that are being really useful for some, because I don't know that most people really need or want a robot. But I think what would be really exciting is to have a greater diversity of these like affordable, usable, kind of providing enough benefit that people actually want to like buy them and adopt them type robots.
Thanks, Selma and David. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll learn about a company that has successfully rolled out a companion robot to help older adults combat loneliness.
LEQ, let's do an activity together.
I thought you'd never ask. So, what are you in the mood for?
That's coming up on Where What If Becomes What's Next.
Innovation meets excellence at the Mellon College of Science at Carnegie Mellon University. Our cutting-edge research facilities, automated science techniques, and interdisciplinary programs empower students to push the boundaries of foundational scientific discovery in fields touching upon biological sciences, chemistry, mathematical sciences, and physics. With renowned faculty and a vibrant collaborative environment, we send alumni into the world with the skills to excel as scholars, professionals, and global citizens. Join us in discovering how What If becomes What's Next.
Welcome back. You're listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University. Before the break, we talked about how social robots can help the elderly maintain their sense of well-being and memory as they age. Now let's talk about an AI-powered companion robot that is already in older adults' homes. It's called LEQ, developed by the startup company Intuition Robotics. Commercially launched in March 2022, LEQ is in its third generation now, LEQ3. It looks like a fancy table lamp that lights up and rotates as it speaks. It has a separate screen next to it. Most importantly, this robot is designed to help alleviate loneliness among older adults.
LEQ, I'm home.
Welcome back. I sure missed you while you were out. How was bridge? Did you win?
Not this time. Dolores was the big winner this week.
Joining me now is Asaf God. He's the VP Strategy and GM for Intuition Robotics. Asaf, what makes LEQ different from having an Alexa or other home-based smart device that you can interact with?
There are many voice assistants or digital assistants in our lives today. And even when we look on, ChatGPT and all the solutions out there, they are all prompt-based or command and control kind of utilitarian interfaces. Alexa, turn on my lights, or Siri, call my mom, or now Siri is calling my mom, of course. LEQ is proactive, and this is another element that allows us to kind of increase the engagement and allow a more personalized experience. So she doesn't just sit there and wait for the older adult to remember her name or a specific functionality. She can understand the context, what's going on in the room right now, who is the person in front of her. Based on previous conversations or previous things that I shared with my LEQ, she will know what are the topic of interest and what is the probability that if she will initiate an interaction right now, I will react positively and continue the conversation with her.
How is LEQ learning from past conversations and interactions?
Just like another human in your life, the more she can learn about you, the more you share with her, the more she can, not just the data point that she collects by the things that you are kind of saying to her within the conversation, but also with the way that you behave and interact with her. If I ask for a recipe, she already knows all my kind of preferences, diet restrictions, and it automatically will be part of the query without me even mentioning it. But most importantly, she will associate it as a shared experience. I'm looking for an Italian recipe, and I really like this kind of Italian music, so maybe while we are cooking, she will play my favorite Italian kind of a song. Or if I told her in the past that I visited Italy, she will kind of mention it. And this will be another point or topic for discussion within our conversation.
LEQ was designed to do many things with her elderly companions to combat loneliness. She can converse about daily activities, connect them to new friends around the country, lead workout sessions, suggest and place calls to loved ones, provide gentle reminders for taking medicines, play music, suggest what's for dinner, and host live bingo games.
We started with bingo just because everyone loves bingo. And we see the anticipation. It's not just a bingo game that you play against LEQ. It's a social event that people register RSVP in advance once a week and waiting to the event, the anticipation of the older adults themselves, getting the reminder that tomorrow at 7:00 there is a bingo game. But the most important part at the end of the day is the feeling or the sense of belonging, right? The fact that there is an event that people on one side of the country can play with people that they will never meet on the other side of the country create a very impressive impact on their life, and the feedbacks are great from this event.
So it's more about the creation of a social community, the sense of belonging and not feeling so alone, than the bingo game itself.
We have a plan to expand it. It won't be just bingo. We will start to have many other social events that people can register in advance. It can be a live class. It can be a lecture. It can be a tour, a virtual tour. But the fact that we are doing that together, that's by itself is mind-blowing.
You use AI to make LEQ smarter with its interactions with the elderly over time. And with generative AI, LEQ can do creative things like write poems or songs, correct?
Yeah, that's a great example of using Gen AI in a way that, first of all, promote creativity and self-expression. But it doesn't stop there. We are not doing it just for the gimmick. So when you paint with LEQ or write a poem with LEQ, there will be a conversation around it. What we are painting, what inspired you to paint this specific paint? Later on, she will remember it. Then once the painting is ready, she will suggest to kind of share it with others. And then this will trigger some kind of a conversation with them. But then we also created some kind of a community exhibition where LEQ participants can upload their art. And we have a weekly exhibition where people can kind of see others' creation on LEQ. And they vote, and we have a winner, a weekly winner that get an award and a recognition among the community. So the sense of belonging here is so important.
What about privacy concerns, especially since LEQ can be configured by the elder adult to share information with their loved ones and caregivers?
Privacy is the number one concern. So they control everything. So it's everything under their control. They decide who will get access to the device. It's very easy to add a trusted contact to LEQ. It can be a son, a daughter, a friend, a care team. The number one feature there is connectivity, sending messages, having video calls, sharing photos, of course, bidirectional. The older adult can send it from the LEQ device. The loved one can send it from the mobile app. We also share notifications with the permission of the older adult. So if I'm not feeling well and I want my daughter to know about it, LEQ, of course, will encourage me to talk, to have a video call with my daughter. But if I just want to notify her, LEQ will ask for permission. I'm going to send it to your daughter, Alma. Are you okay with it? And of course, I can refuse if I don't want her to know it, if I don't want to bother her. So having privacy, not just under the privacy policy, but as part of the experience, by not surprising the older adult about their data that is shared with any third party, is kind of a primary element within the experience, which is very important for us.
It's also my understanding that it was very intentional to not make LEQ look and sound too human-like. And similar to the social robot we talked about earlier in the show, you want users to always remember that LEQ is a robot. Why?
It's definitely against the mainstream right now that everyone is trying to create humanized robot or humanoid. We didn't want to go this way, first of all, because we don't believe that LEQ is a replacement for another humans. The number one kind of goal for LEQ is to help older adults to connect with other humans. Then she can fill these gaps when they are all by themselves. We don't believe that technology can be a real substitute to human, no matter how much we will try. At the end of the day, the empathy, the feeling that we can try to imitate will be always artificial compared to the expression or the feelings of a human.
Can an elderly person afford LEQ?
We wanted to make LEQ affordable and accessible to many older adults as possible. And for that, we actually partner with different organizations like the Area Agency on Aging in several areas, the Department of Aging, few health plans under Medicare and Medicaid that provide LEQ as a funded or subsidized service to their clients as well. So we created a dedicated website, leq.com/free, where people can go, just put their zip code and their name, and we will match them with a program that can subsidize the service for them.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I read a news article about your partnership with the New York State Office for the Aging. It said the department distributed LEQ robots to more than 800 older New Yorkers, and 95% of those adults reported feeling less lonely after using LEQ. Asaf, this has been a really fascinating conversation. Thanks so much. Okay, let's take out our crystal ball and look out 5 to 10 years. CMU's Carmel Majidi, you had the first words on this episode, so now you can have a last. What's next in companion robots?
The more we bring robotics into a domestic space or in a healthcare environment where it's interacting with a wide spectrum of people, the more expectations are going to be placed on these robots to be more anthropomorphic or act more like humans. So again, that could involve putting skins on these robots that allow them to change their facial, features and show different types of facial expressions, for example, right? It might be robots that just feel more natural to the touch or are able to engage in physical contact with a human in a way that feels lifelike and real.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks to all my guests, and thanks to you for listening. Please check the show notes where you'll find links to additional resources for this episode. And to learn more or contact us with a story idea or comments, please visit ai.cmu.edu/podcast. If you are enjoying this show, please rate and review us on your favorite podcast site and share with friends. And be sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. You've been listening to Where What If Becomes What's Next from Carnegie Mellon University, where we are exploring what AI means to industries, government, society, and you. Stay tuned and stay curious.